Hello, everyone, uh, to the quarterly call of the DCG Q3 2020 quarterly call. Welcome the management team who will be presenting for you the achievements and from Q3 and our plans for Q4. Welcome everyone on YouTube stream. And my name is Robert Więcko. I will be your host and operator during this stream, and Ryan will be leading the call. I hand it over to you, Ryan.
All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our third quarter 2020 Dash Core Group conference call. I'm Ryan Taylor, CEO of Dash Core Group, and I'm joined on the call by several members of the team. We have Ernesto Contreras, our head of business development, Glenn Austin, our chief financial officer, Bob Carroll, our chief technology officer, and Fernando Gutierrez, our chief marketing officer. Moving to the agenda, we're first going to share a set of prepared remarks, accompanying slides, followed by a question and answer session. We collected quite a few questions ahead of the call. And we'll aim to address those during the Q&A. Just because of the volume and similarity of a lot of the questions, we've summarized some of them. A lot of them will be answered in the call itself. So if you don't see your question at the end, chances are it got summarized with another one, or we felt like it was already adequately addressed. And then we'll try to answer as many live questions as we can from the chat within the time allotted. And anything that we have remaining in the queue, we will address in written form after the call, just as we have in the past. Keep in mind, the call is intended as an update on our overall strategy and operations, so questions should ideally reflect that intent. Any more technical questions that do arise, we'll defer those to written form. Our goal for the call is to provide an update on Dash Core Group operations and development, to review performance data on the Dash network from the third quarter, and to provide a view into what we're working on next. We also want to discuss other relevant community topics. So with all of our quarterly calls, we're going to start with a brief overview of the Dash network and Dash Core Group strategy. We're also going to talk about our mission and vision statement, something new that we've made some revisions to. We're also going to discuss the latest performance metrics, which remained very strong during the quarter. Glenn will walk us through an update on our financials, including the balance sheet and income statement. Bob is going to give an update on the technology roadmap, and then Ernesto is going to walk us through some of the progress we've made against our growth plans. The biggest news we plan to share today is regarding what's coming next. Not only are we reaffirming today what we committed to do in the fourth quarter, when we held our last quarterly call back in August, specifically that we plan to deploy platform to testnet this quarter. And I won't steal Bob's thunder, but we're going to be expanding our commitment to deliver more than just platform. We're also excited to provide the community with a timeline for our plans to deploy platform and Dash Pay to mainnet. So when we get into that section, we'll go through the details, and Bob will provide a timeline for that. So that's going to be the big news for today. We have a lot of content regarding development and growth. So I'm planning on keeping today's call as streamlined as possible. I also want to emphasize that the network continues to grow. Dash just logged its 8th consecutive quarter of transaction activity growth. A range of different metrics indicate that our users and activity continues expanding at double-digit annual rates. And we're starting to see much more traction with larger retailers integrating Dash. We're reaching deeper integrations into the point of sale systems that they operate. And we're seeing greater support for instant send and exchanges, and the expansion of other related trading oriented tools with the launch of FastPass. And so there's just a lot of exciting things to share, a lot of exciting things about the future that we plan to share, and I'd like to get right into it. So I mentioned during the intro there that we made some revisions to the mission and vision statement. Way back in early 2015, in the spring of 2015, Balu, myself, and about 8 other team members that were involved with the project at the time wrote a mission and vision statement for Dash and published it in May of 2015. And what we found is, that was written for the network itself, and we felt like it's no one person's place to write a mission and vision statement for the network. But what we found is that what we wrote was very aligned with what Dash Core Group was attempting to deliver, or is attempting to deliver to the network, and where we see opportunities. And so what we've done is we've taken what existed and modified it slightly to apply to Dash Core Group and what it is that we're trying to do for the network. And so this is what we developed during that revision. We feel it's important to have this maintained because it really aligns decision-making and activity across the entire team. And while we've always had it, making it specific to DCG has been really helpful for us. So going down the list here, first, the mission statement. Dash Core Group's mission is to provide greater financial freedom by delivering financial solutions which are secure, reliable, decentralized, and usable for all. We build and maintain an innovative financial infrastructure and digital currency that's characterized by its decentralization, usability, and ease of access. The core of this infrastructure is a payments network connecting an ecosystem of consumers, merchants, and service providers. And then we broke down what was previously a monolithic paragraph into 4 simple bullets to make this concise and easy to remember and easy to orient the reader around. First, we're going to provide users with a fungible currency that offers speed, reliability, and optional privacy for both physical and online transactions. We're going to foster a robust ecosystem of financial products and services by developing solutions which service the needs of consumers and merchants. So what these first bullets are referring to is layer 1, the network and currency itself. And the second bullet is layer 2. This is what we are delivering with platform and the ability to build new products and services directly into the network. Thirdly, collaborate with service providers to enable Dash-specific functionality. This is our business development function and what they're doing. They're ensuring that our functionality, like Instant Send and some of the new functionality that's going to be coming with platform, actually reaches the market and becomes available to consumers to use. And lastly, cultivate adoption of this ecosystem through education, promotion, and engagement of potential users, our community. And so this is essentially marketing and education, PR, all of the things that kind of help our ecosystem flourish. And so we feel like this really summarizes what it is that we're aiming to do for the network. And we hope it's clarifying not only for us internally and during our decision-making processes, but also externally with the community to make it clear what we feel like we are responsible for. Back to you. And certainly Dash Core Group is not the only entity that can fulfill any of these functions. Community members can now build on platform and build applications that will add to the ecosystem of financial products and services that we offer. Any organization can perform education or marketing or promotion, engagement with community, Any organization can go out and do business development, and in fact, they do. We have several organizations that have business development among their mandates, and anyone can contribute to an open source project. And so we do have other development organizations that are contributing, the Electrum wallet, DMT, and a number of other tools to the community. So we want to make clear what we're doing, and I also want to make clear that we're not the only ones doing these things. And so, we think that this is a really healthy way of articulating what it is that we plan to do. So I look forward to feedback on this. A mission and vision should be a living, breathing document. We think that this articulates well what it is that we're trying to do. And but if you have any feedback at all, please send it along to the team. Next slide. We generally share this slide on each of our quarterly calls, how DCG is growing Dash. We are actively growing the ecosystem of users and partnerships, services that run on Dash's network. We've focused almost, probably 90% of our attention at the 3 opportunities at the top there in terms of greatest need, greatest fit. Venezuela, where we've really gotten quite a bit of traction. Remittances, enabling more exchanges and self-service options, but in corridors that really are strong remittance use cases, where remittances are either difficult or there's a high volume of them, and crypto trading. So we've done a lot to advance our crypto trading capabilities and the ecosystem surrounding not just exchanges, but a number of other services as well. We'll go through that during the growth section. And then engaging with developers, the community, and merchants to help raise awareness and bring people into the community. We develop products that really focus on functionality, but also enhancing the reliability and ease of use is an important component of what we're delivering. And lastly, the technology. The first layer is our payments technology. This is the main blockchain and the peer-to-peer trustless network and currency that runs on it. Layer 2 is platform, and the applications that run on that are layer 3. And so these are the pieces that we're touching, and we're leveraging to help grow Dash. Next slide. So next we'll talk about some of the metrics and market performance that we've seen over the last quarter. There we go. So first metric that we're going to look at here is the daily volatility. Daily volatility did increase slightly during the quarter. It is the price volatility is slightly lower than is typical, but it did rise from some historically low numbers back in Q2. And so volatility is obviously of concern for people that are using Dash as a currency and as a payment mechanism. So we like to see the day-to-day fluctuations quite stable. How many active, in terms of whether people are using Dash, we see across the board growth. Literally every metric that we look at here, we are seeing, strong growth metrics. We've got higher daily active addresses, continued growth in the number of wallets that are installed on active devices. These are active devices that connect to the network within the previous month, so it's pretty up to date. Unspent UTXOs, these are unspent outputs, another indicator of activity on the network that we've seen continued growth in. and addresses with more than $1. This is another metric that can be indicative of the number of users on the network and continue to see growth there. In terms of what people are doing with the network, we saw a little bit more mixed results here when you look at daily activity on exchanges. It was pretty stable and up about 30% year on year. This is our volume across 10 exchanges that Masari tracks and believes is real volume. So it excludes a good portion of the volume, but this is a very reliable metric, at least for comparison purposes, quarter on quarter and year on year. So we do see pretty strong growth in trading volume year on year. Total payment volume was off a little bit. This metric is adjusted TPV. It attempts to take out things like change coming back to a user during a transaction. And so what we saw here is a slight fall off. Part of that is due to a spike in price that we saw during Q2 that would cause that to kind of on a comparable basis drop a little bit. In terms of economic transactions, our preferred metric is median economic transactions because it generally it dampens the effects of any stress tests that anybody runs on the network. We saw continued growth in that metric and about 30% growth year on year. And private send transactions, they're up about 25% year on year. We had a really strong Q2 in terms of use of private send, and that growth continued. So if you look across the board, and look across all of these metrics, it seems like the network is growing at strong double-digit growth rates year on year in terms of our users and in terms of activity. Kind of taking an average across all of these, it looks like somewhere around the 30% range seems to be a reasonable assumption. When we do a comparison with some of the other payment-focused networks, Bitcoin and then Bitcoin Cash and Litecoin, these are true. These are positioned as currencies within the market. We have seen some growth with some of the other networks. Bitcoin had a strong quarter for on-chain transactions. That can be good for altcoins when Bitcoin does become congested. It is near its capacity at 325,000 transactions a day. And so during peak times, it can affect the user experience and push users to other networks. Lightning Network did grow. We can't see transaction counts, but we do look at Lightning Network capacity as a proxy, and it did seem to grow, though it is off of a pretty small base. So it's unclear how much that network is used. Bitcoin Cash did see its median transaction count fall pretty dramatically during the quarter, and Litecoin saw a surge. And it's been pointed out to me that surge is primarily tied to the launch of a game that is storing the game data on the Litecoin network on its main chain. So that doesn't seem to be true economic transactions growth that they're seeing, but the metrics do show that the network is seeing more activity. So when you compare Dash with some of its competitors, it does seem to be growing at a faster pace in terms of the activity that's taking place on these networks. And that's a positive sign that we're doing some things right. Lastly, is Dash's market value did see a slight price increase during the quarter. And of course, market cap growth as a result. Our year-on-year market cap grew about 5%. and that did mark the third consecutive quarter of price increases. And then lastly, with the store of value work that we've introduced to the network, I have started to report the last couple of quarters on our circulating supply growth. Our circulating supply growth did drop again this quarter, slightly. The goal is to get the circulating supply growth year on year down to below double-digit numbers, in order to better stabilize the effects that growth has on our price and the dilution that it has on price. And so good progress towards that. We did, of course, introduce to the network the results of a proposal that we held back in July to incentivize the growth of the masternode network and thereby reduce the growth rate of circulating supply. There does seem to be some anticipatory effect of that proposal going up to the network being coded and released. And we are seeing good adoption of that release. We'll go through the details in the development section. So in summary, looking across all of these metrics, it does seem like Dash continues to move in the right direction with a high degree of consistency. When you look at some of the, these are some select metrics that you saw on the previous page, but broken out quarter by quarter. And you can see a relatively consistent story here of growth for the last several quarters on key metrics like economic activity on the network, wallets installed, activity in terms of addresses. So it does really seem like the network continues to grow and attract new users. Detailed metrics are available in the appendix. All of the quarterly numbers for the past 5 quarters are available for both year-on-year and quarter-on-quarter comparisons. And we also have a definitions slide that will be accessible after the call, where you can actually read the definitions of some of these metrics and identify the sources that we used. All right, up next is Glenn with our financials.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everyone. We'll cover third quarter financials now. First, let's cover the typical disclosures. All of our accounting is conducted in USD to provide a stable picture of our financials. And since we are using mark-to-market accounting for our holdings of Dash, we're not reporting in accordance with US GAAP. All right, taking a look at our balance sheet. Total assets decreased 14% to 1.1 million quarter over quarter. During the quarter, we continued to rebuild our salaries reserve by submitting a core team compensation supplemental proposal. Our compensation reserve in third quarter actually grew by $100,000. So even though it appears that our reserve was flat by looking just at our assets, you kind of can see that $100,000 decrease in accrued expenses in our liabilities. And this mostly relates to accrued compensation. So the compensation reserve net of those accrued salary invoices for the month of September currently sits at 2.6 months of expense. So we're slowly inching our way towards that 3-month minimum I mention on every quarterly call. On the non-compensation portion of the balance sheet, every account declined quarter over quarter. Again, this was not unexpected. This was because we had funded only compensation throughout the quarter. However, we are in good shape. In the future, we plan on funding our infrastructure and marketing accounts. Onto our liabilities. As I already mentioned, we had $87,000 in accrued expenses. The vast majority of these expenses are for September salaries that had not been paid out as of September 30th. Quarter over quarter, you see that number decrease significantly as we are able to pay our subcontractors and employees on the last day of the month, since the incoming superblock arrives on an earlier date each month. Additionally, you can see we're holding $64,000 on behalf of Dash DAO Trust and Dash Japan in our escrow account. In the third quarter of 2020, we generated a net loss of $83,000 after tax. Can we go on to the next slide? This is our income statement for Q3 2020. Dash Core Group received revenue of $757,000, which was up 4% from Q2 2020. The increase was due to a slightly higher average price of Dash at which we cashed out versus the previous quarter. At $621,000, 83% of our expenses were related to compensation. Compensation expense overall was lower by 5% compared to Q2 2020. This decrease was primarily driven by volunteers stepping forward and reducing their compensation in Q3 relative to Q2. We had $126,000 in non-compensation expenses in Q3. Non-compensation expenses were primarily driven by spend in general administrative, business development, as well as professional fees. Business development funds were primarily spent on a number of significant integrations, and I believe Ernesto will cover those biz dev successes later on this call. On the general and administrative side, most of the $87,000 was spent for directors and officers insurance, and the balance largely on infrastructure invoices. Then on the professional fees side, we had costs related to interactions with regulators, our standard legal costs, as well as a small portion of money allocated towards outside accountants for the preparation of our tax reporting. Obviously, travel and conference expenses were virtually non-existent given the COVID-19 situation. In Q3 2020, we recognized the loss of $13,000 as a result of the depreciation of Dash held on the balance sheet. This loss was generated by a timing difference between receiving the funds from the network and the lag it takes to liquidate the Dash in the open market. Tax expense for the entire year ending June 30th, 2020 was $80,000. As I mentioned in our previous quarterly call, the effective tax rate on the funds we receive from the Dash network is less than 2%. This speaks to the fact that our current legal entity structure is optimal from a tax perspective, while allowing us to continue to reap the benefits of being a for-profit organization. So pre-tax, we're essentially break even, and after the payment of taxes, net loss was $83,000 in the third quarter. We have also worked on strengthening our internal policies and compliance when it comes to our accounting books. As part of that process, we now have both the CEO, Ryan, and the CEO, Robert, reviewing and confirming balances and transactions entered in our accounting system. This type of activity was done intermittently by our accountants in the past, but it's nice to implement a formal process internally as well. So far in the reviews, no material issues or findings have been identified. So in summary, our current situation is stable. We're able to continue to increase our compensation reserve during the quarter, mostly by submitting a supplemental compensation proposal to the network in lieu of asking for funding for non-compensation accounts. And at the current price of roughly $68, we are only slightly eating into our reserve on a monthly basis. With that, I'll pass it over to Bob for an extremely exciting technology update.
Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate that. Let's take a look at our third quarter, as that's the primary focus of the call. We'll review the deliverables from each of the three primary product teams. So in Dash Core, one of the major accomplishments in Q3 was delivering version 0.16 to mainnet. I've got quite a bit more information on a following slide, so I'll cover that in detail there. But again, a very significant quarter for the core team with both a core and a Sentinel upgrade. The platform team delivered 2 releases during the quarter, both to the EvoNet, which is our public DevNet platform, which included improvements to our testing suites, to additional features as far as binary fields and the support of those, and improved timestamping and improved distribution packages. And in addition to the development work, we were polishing off some designs and published 2 DIPs at the end of the quarter, both for DPNS, or our Dash Platform Name Service, as well as identities. And so those are available for consumption on the web. And the Dash Wallet team, or our mobile team as we refer to them, was also extremely busy. So with many releases, as you can see in the bullet item list, we had over 3 releases on Android. We had iOS releases, both maintenance releases, as well as the next major release moved into beta on that. And that was just our wallets that are in action today. And then on top of that, all of the work with Dash Pay, and I'll cover that a little bit more in detail too. So fantastic quarter, all teams working very well together. And let's now look at the version 16 core release. So the core release itself had improvements in several areas in terms of security, in performance, privacy, and all of these features were built into the product. The most visible change is to the wallet itself. And you can see that's why we shared one of the graphics from it, was just, it went through a complete overhaul of the graphics in it. The menu tab across the top is all responsive and takes up the whole menu, or the whole width of the screen. Every one of the icons was touched and improved upon. There's greater consistency across all operating systems and a more consistent experience for all users. So we were really happy with the developments that happened this quarter in core. In addition to all of our work on Dash, we also probably had, I think it was around 800 backports of Bitcoin version 16 that was also included into this major release. And we not only had efforts from Dash Core Group ourselves, but also had great community member efforts. One of the contributions that was made was a unique private send tab that was offered up by a community member, and that was merged into the code during this quarter as well. So it was an exciting quarter of development for Dash Core to get that from finished up and begin our testnet journey. Once it's on testnet, let's now look at the adoption of version 16 once it reached mainnet. And I'll show you here a graph of looking at basically these windows, these BIP9 windows, because we have 2 things that are happening here in this release. 2 sporks. One is to ensure a minimum protocol that all masternode owners are running on, or masternodes are running on version 16. And the second spork is around block reward reallocation. So 2 significant efforts, and we watch this very closely, and I want to just take you through how the migration will look and how it's been happening to date. For spork 21 activation, we're watching the masternode adoption toward an 80% adoption threshold. And you can see how this has grown since our initial release on September 30th. And with a target of 80% masternode adoption, we're running right now, although that's the target and that's what that shows, we're about a week ahead of that on the chart, and a week earlier on the chart, and we're sitting at about 77% right now. So I have to draw in some hypotheticals throughout this whole process to display it to you. But what that first stopping point shows is us at once we hit 80%. Because this will begin enforcing or once we hit 80%, we will wait about a week before activating spork 21. And this graphical model shows us hitting it about a week from now, although it's only for illustrative purposes. And this will begin enforcing the minimum protocol version that is run by each of the masternodes. And we project that over about a 1-week period also, all non-compliant masternodes, those running version 15 or 14 or earlier, will eventually be banned from the network, and thus achieving 100% of our masternodes running version 16. So we're very excited about how that process is moving forward right now. And in spork 22 activation, we're watching how miners adopt. And that's towards our minimum threshold. And the minimum threshold is there shown with the dots in a decreasing manner. Spork 22 will trigger the activation of our block reward reallocation, which was approved by the network back in Q3 with the proposal vote. And the threshold level for activation, it begins at 80%, as you can see on the left, and decreases to 60% over a period of 10 windows. And this ability, even to have the variation in the threshold, is a new feature that we also included in version 16 and are very excited about that. So we monitor this by looking at the end of each window and looking at the percentage of blocks mined with the current version. And so as of a few hours ago, our third window closed, and our third window measured at about 28%. Our first window was at 2%, our second window closed around 11%, and the third one, again, just ended today at 28%. However, with over 50% of our miners currently signaling version 16, we are projecting to be somewhere around 60% by the next window. So it'll be a dramatic increase, but again, that increase isn't just estimated out of hopes. We know specifically what we're doing today. So the diagram here again has modeled 5 additional windows prior to exceeding that minimum threshold. But again, it's only for illustrative purposes. And once that threshold is met, a week-long lock-in window will be in place. And I think we're all familiar with that process. And at the end of the window, the BIP9 activation will be complete, and we will activate Spork 22. Activating Spork 22 doesn't immediately adjust the block rewards. The reallocation will only begin at the next super block following the activation. So you can see the most recent super block and the next 2 along the bottom of the chart in gold. And based on this hypothetical model, the block reward reallocation would be initiated with the December super block. However, there's a chance that we could hit the November super block. What that would take is that would take 75% in the window that ends on November 20th. And then the reallocation could occur with that super block around November 27th. So hopefully that gives you an idea of how we're doing. We've all been very pleased with the adoption rate so far, and we're really excited to continue to move forward and take these improvements that we put into the product and do so with care and safety, and we appreciate your support on that. I'd like to now just highlight the Dash improvement proposals that were released to the public this last quarter. And you can see that they're very significant. We've talked about these designs in the past. We are now just releasing those for public review and consumption. And you can see the table of contents on each of those. But identities is critical with the abilities to create and update and top up the identities themselves, as well as how we will disable those. And then the name service, again, which is really just underlying everything as far as how identities and apps themselves are named, and how we will resolve those, how we register names, and how we manage those domains. And so I want to thank the teams. Really, the input on the architecture comes from all teams. It doesn't sit in any one group. And we have input from the public through comments that we've had and have been incorporated, and that's a lot of our debate. And sometimes the delay in getting those out is to make sure that we are incorporating all the viewpoints that have been shared with us. And so again, thank you to those who have led and managed the process, who have organized the chaos, and specifically those who have put the words on paper and edited those to get them to be published. So now I want to look at looking forward now into Q4, what we have on deck. And part of this is to set appropriate expectations of the scope of what is to be delivered. And then we'll talk, and when we get to the roadmap, about the delivery and the timelines of the things to be delivered. So first off, our initial release of Dash Platform has been largely focused to ensure that we have a solid foundation of Dash Platform to deliver the Dash Pay wallet. And we've talked about the Dash Pay wallet for years, and so what that does is that keeps our focus on mobile, right? Because the Dash Pay wallet is a mobile-only offering. And with the mobile offering, you can see that we'll have multiple SDKs available, 2 of which we're going to consume and use for the Dash Pay wallet. And that's both the Java and the Objective-C SDKs. In addition, we've been working on a JavaScript SDK that will be available as well. If those people who want to build mobile applications in JavaScript with a framework such as React Native, they would have that ability to do so as well. There's an asterisk on that, and the asterisk is that if you're doing JavaScript, you're going to need to have a full node at somewhere. Our future implementations of the SDK Lite client will verify data from the network in a trustless manner. However, at this point in time, with this initial release, if you wanted to use JavaScript, you'd need to be running your own full node. However, although that's been our focus for mobile support, these same SDKs you can see in the middle here will be ready for deployment in desktop and server environments as well. So if you want to run Java on Windows, you want to run Objective-C on Mac OS, those options are available for you in those environments with Lite client support as well. Again, if you want to utilize our JavaScript SDK in that type of environment, you'll need to run a full node, and that's the only exception there. Now, the browser is an ultimate target for JavaScript implementations. And so to have the most flexibility with JavaScript implementations on the browser, obviously we want to be able to eliminate that need for a full node. That isn't going to be in our initial release. Again, we're probably over-delivering for just our need on Dash Pay Wallet, but we wanted to open up as many opportunities for the development communities, but also set expectations clearly. So again, if you run a full node, you'll be able to run JavaScript. If you want to be able to do that with full Lite client, you'll need to wait for a future deployment of that. But we're really excited about what we have here in the client libraries that will be delivered this quarter. Next, I'd like to talk about the Dash Pay Wallet. And the Dash Pay Wallet, again, which has been our focus. And we have significant development going on, but our product team is also already underway with our alpha programs for those who want to be early testers and closely involved with it. So in Q4, when I look at those 3 bullet items there about display names and bios and profile pictures, I smile because oftentimes those are the things people do first because they're the easiest, or they have obviously the most simplicity around them. So it's nice that what we're doing is we held those off to the final area of our development. And so it's nice that we've got this kind of clear line of sight to the end of development. The alpha program is to give early access to those who want to provide feedback, who may have to jump through a couple extra hoops in order to be able to run a mobile device. If you're familiar with mobile app testing, you know what those hoops are. They're not significant, but oftentimes they require an email address, running some sort of testing software on to deploy the wallet itself. So we appreciate those who've been involved with it so far. The alpha program as we've had incremental deliverables of the Dash Pay wallet, we've been able to push out usernames and contacts. Username payments is out there and active right now. So paying to user, right? This is the big bet that we have. And coming in November, we'll also add to that the profiles and pictures. What we will be holding off on to until Q1 of next year is invitations, the ability to invite somebody and send invitations and figure out the fees around that. But at this point in time, it'll be a very solid wallet experience. And so looking forward to continued feedback on that and continued success. So now let's look at the roadmap. And in last quarterly call was the first quarterly call where we gave 2 quarters of discrete visibility, and we're continuing that in this quarter. And when we look at the core dev team, so what we're looking at is Q4 and Q1 of 21, and the work that's going to be accomplished. And so for Dash Core, we released version 0.16.0 on September 30th. We're now at about a month out from that, and we have enough maintenance items that have come in that we feel it's appropriate to deliver a maintenance release 0.16.1. And so that will be forthcoming over the next week or so, and we will send out notifications and announce that to the community as it comes forth. We're also working, our development efforts always include a good series of backports. That work has been underway for months, and so we're well into that process right now. And again, we will have, I think, somewhere between 600 and 800 backports that will be included into version 17. And so grateful to the core team that's been working on that. The primary focus, however, is to ensure that we have all of the foundational items needed to support platforms released to testnet. And those include a new special transaction for asset locks, a new quorum size to support that special transaction, as well as restricting some remote procedure calls to really lock down and ensure the security of the platform of core while platforms interacting with it. We will migrate that to testnet in December. There was another process improvement that we adopted for version 17, and that is in GitHub. We have published a roadmap of key milestones that we will hit in order to get 17 to testnet. And those include when we do translations, when we have feature freezes, et cetera. And so that is public and available for you to look at in the Dash Core repo. So moving to Q1 then, we would look to, and I should really have an asterisk on this, but we would look to getting 17 to mainnet. Again, we can't commit on how long it takes to get to mainnet. There's too many variables to do that, but that would be our target, is within a quarter to be able to get to mainnet there. And continuing on with development in what would become version 18. There's several items that we have on our backlog that we have earmarked for version 18. Obviously, we're not in development on them yet, and so it's tough to say whether they will hit. And even one of them that is earmarked, which is more flexibility into the proposal system, that has an asterisk on it on the slide, because we actually need to even go to the network to determine how that would roll out and how that would be designed. So we do have a backlog. We do have items earmarked for version 18, and we're excited about what we have there. So now let's look at the platform deliverables for this quarter and in the future. As we did in last quarter, we had 2 releases to our public DevNet. And in this quarter, Q4, we will have 2 more releases. So today we are releasing version 16 of Dash Platform. Yes, there is some alignment now. We're releasing version 16 of Dash Platform to EvoNet today. There will be a blog post that you'll see on that, and we applaud the team for all their hard work in doing this. And we will have 1 more release in Q4, which we're calling V17. And I just want to take one moment to look back at the year, because we talked about doing releases on a 6-week cycle throughout the entire year, and we have done that up until this point. This last quarter, with the way the calendar rolled out, we would have had 3 releases possibly, and the last release would have been on December, possibly the earliest would have been on December 29th. And we made the conscious decision to scale back on that and just do 2 releases this year. Let's hit it hard, get the key things we need delivered, and make sure that we have an end of year that's pleasing to the community as well as the core group members. But we will still have the same scope delivered. It's just going to be across 2 releases. So we have work that's being done there in ensuring consensus between the core blockchain or the financial transaction blockchain, as well as the platform blockchain. That's what core heights and consensus is. Validator set rotation is around how we manage that consensus with quorums. We have state trees to build in, which is the server side of Light Client, and it has to do with the data management and the data storage and some block signing and identity funding. It's a big quarter for us. We have a lot on our plate, and we need a lot of help for that. And so we've been using resources outside of the platform team to deliver over the last quarter, and we'll continue that into this quarter. We've had some external consultants or contractors added to help out with some specific areas of expertise. We've also had members of the core team and the mobile team jump in to help out as well. And so we're asking for that continued support in this quarter. As mentioned on our last quarterly call, we will deliver Dash Platform to testnet in December. Again, the dependency for that is Dash Core to testnet as well. And so we have 2 items to sync up on, and all the teams are aligned on that. As we move into Q1, there's more work that we need to do in order to get Dash Platform to mainnet, but our goal is to get Dash Platform to mainnet in Q1 as well. The asterisk there is we don't know how long it takes to be on testnet. Obviously, we have some dev work, but the dev work is on the smaller side. If you look at that, many of those items are operational, infrastructure, resiliency, reliability, testing, those types of things. And so we're going to be doing what we intend to do on a testnet. We're going to test it. And so we're excited for Q1 and what we have in store. And our target is that we will move to mainnet. Again, obviously, core needing to move to mainnet during that quarter as well. We've selectively pulled some things back that will be post MVP because, again, our priority is to get Dash Pay Wallet out and available. And so those things that were not dependent or a dependency for Dash Pay Wallet have been moved forward. And lastly, let's look at the mobile team development. And this is where the excitement really comes into play, because however you've looked at our vision over the last couple of years, some people have different perspectives. If you're a developer, it's all about the platform and how you can build decentralized apps on the Dash network. And that is exciting. For other people, it's how do we increase consumer adoption of Dash by using an easy, friendly to use wallet where I can pay to somebody by name as opposed to cryptographic address. And what we're announcing today is that in Q4 of this year, we will get the Dash Pay wallet to testnet, and we will release it on testnet. Again, that has dependencies too of platform going to testnet and core going to testnet. And so what we're really doing is orchestrating across those 3 teams the deliverables for this quarter. I've laid out what we need to develop. That was on previous slide. And we, in addition to the Dash Pay wallet work, we'll continue to work on the wallets that are out there and available in the stores today. And we are working on an on-ramp integration for our Android wallet, and we're excited for the prospect of that. And that is yet to be announced, but that would be some additional features to our existing wallet today. But our goal is Dash Pay wallet to testnet in Q4 this quarter. What that means is we'll still have a few items of work before we can get to mainnet. Invitations in particular is one that is significant, but we could go to mainnet without invitations in place. And so we'll really have feature complete on Dash Pay wallet by the end of this quarter of what could be an MVP release. We won't sit still. We'll keep improving it. We'll keep improving the user experience. And I want to thank the mobile team, both the Android and the iOS side and the design side, for working collectively together to get these things out. And again, we're building these into the main wallet, our core native wallets today, and it's all happening under the hood. And so we're excited about that. And then as we move into the future, once we have that out for consumer adoption, we'll look at how additional features can be added into that. So what I want to emphasize before I turn the time back over is, in last quarter's roadmap, we communicated that platform would hit testnet in Q4, but we didn't commit to DashPay mobile wallet being available at that time. And not only are we reaffirming that platform will be launched feature complete on testnet this quarter, we're also now adding a commitment to have DashPay launch with it. And this is all the efforts of the development teams, the product teams, and everybody working together. And so the collaboration has been fantastic. And the input and support from the community, especially with EvoNet, has been great as well. So my heartfelt thanks goes out to all of those who have participated in a great quarter and participate in this one coming up. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Ryan.
Thanks, Bob. Just a couple of comments. You know, this is going to be a sprint to the finish. The team is working incredibly hard, and you know, I think Bob alluded to the fact that, you know, anyone that can chip in and help out has been coming over from other teams. We've brought in expertise from external where it can help. And it really is going to be a big push here to get to the end of the year. But we are committed to make that happen for the community and deliver to testnet. Really excited that the DashPay mobile wallet is going to accompany it, and to have a target date out there for mainnet is really exciting as well. And you know, obviously we're going to do our damnness to hit those timelines. So I really want to thank the development team for the exceptional level of effort that is going into it right now. Long hours and a lot of collaboration. And so now we need to buckle down and deliver that last stretch here, and get it out. So a lot of kudos to the team, and much appreciation. So with that, we will switch over to growth. Ernesto is going to take over the presentation from here.
Yeah. Hi, guys. It's a pleasure to talk to you today. So I'll be sharing with you what we've done in growth. And to start it off, I will say that some time ago, we understood that we will grow where we can, you know, find the greatest fit to solve the greatest need. So with that, I'll say that this quarter, we spent most of our time focusing heavily on our growth verticals. So this is a great way to enhance the foundations of growth. And some of them have already been live, and we have seen some of the results. But today I'll talk to you about what we've done around 3 verticals. In Venezuela, we've created and grown meaningful ecosystems where Dash can be used as a payments tool. It is used because it has enhanced speed, and it's also a currency haven tool for the people in Venezuela. On the trading side, we've enabled better user experience with Dash at an expanded level beyond only being adopted into exchanges. And on other growth verticals, we've kept an eye open for great opportunities where we can solve for a better payments rail where there's an important need. To go into details, I'll start with Venezuela. During Q3, we spent significant time working and improving our relationship with the Megasoft and CryptoBuyer integration. Megasoft is a points of sale provider that works with the largest retail stores in the country. These are the equivalents of Home Depot, of Walmart, and other such stores in Venezuela. We already saw a few days ago the result of the first supermarket chain in the country that takes Dash directly into their system, but that is Q4. So all of that is the result of the work we've done alongside our partners, Megasoft and CryptoBuyer. We've also worked very hard on the ground. we've compiled lots of the efforts that were done previously, and we started listing what are the top destinations that accept Dash in a city. This means places that accept Dash, that are training Dash, and that are making promotions for the end user to spend Dash. As you can see, this complements the largest retail integrations that we're already having, because it's not only about being able to buy with Dash in a supermarket, it's also about making it useful so the place in front of it also accepts Dash, and that you can buy and sell Dash all in a closed ecosystem. As part of this ecosystem, we've continued working with Church's Chicken, and we've tried different promotions with them and measure which ones are getting the most traction from current users and which ones are getting the most attraction for non-Dash user. So we found that a 10% promotion in discount has spurred a lot of attention from people that do not use Dash, and the call centers of Church's Chicken were loaded with people saying, hey, where can I buy this thing called Dash? Because now I can pay with the exact amount and fast. So all of this is fostering and growing an ecosystem in Venezuela where Dash can be used as digital cash. On the trading and remittances front, we announced the FastPass Alliance. As you remember, FastPass is a network of trusted exchanges, service providers, and other tools that can be used for an enhanced and better trading experience. This means that we're adding more exchanges to the FastPass Alliance. Last quarter, we announced a liquid pair. We also announced an OrionX integration in Chile, which is very interesting because not only does it have instant send integration, but it's also feeding into the Venezuelan strategy because it's in Chile, and Chile is the third country with the highest concentration of Venezuelans abroad. So as you can see, FastPass is creating a large pool of liquidity where Dash can be moved mostly for trading, but it also feeds into the other parts of our strategy. And another very exciting news is that we added Quadency and Hummingbot to the FastPass Alliance. These are tools that allow any trader to do market making in the exchange that they are live. So now if you're a trader, you can move money in between exchanges in seconds to make the most of arbitrage opportunities, but also you can do staking, lending, and now market making thanks to Quadency, Hummingbot. And there's more to come here. We've also continued expanding our integrations with current partners. And last quarter, we did a bunch of activities such as AMAs and promotions with Whitebit, for example. Other very exciting activities were regarding the gaming and other parts of the ecosystem. On gaming, we supported Ready Raiders. Ready Raiders already launched a bunch of products such as the in-game prices, competitions, and others. And they've grown from literally 0 users about a year ago to more than 5,000 people that already hold Dash in their game, because Dash is serving as a solution for the in-game products that they have. Another very exciting update that we have is that last quarter we announced alongside our Mexican partner Tauros the first crypto debit card in Latin America. This was done thanks to the support we have with the Mexican team and with our boost. They've not only launched the first crypto card in Latin America, but they started a Dashback program, which allowed them to capture tens of thousands of users who are now being exposed to Dash. A very interesting insight there is that Dash is serving as a crypto door for many of these users who were not aware or who did not have crypto before that. So they're spending on their debit card, they're getting Dash back, and what we have found is that they're holding their Dash and they're actually acquiring more Dash. So this has proven not only to be a great useful tool for people that have crypto, but also an onboarding tool for people that were not exposed to Dash previously. And another very important part is the regulatory work we've done in Japan, New York, and other parts of the world. This is very important because it's allowing us to keep doors open and to continue grow. All of these actions are pushing Dash to grow strategically and allow the network to move towards more users, more volume, more brand awareness, and achieve the growth we aim to have. If we go to the next slide, I will dedicate a little bit more of time to speak about the regulatory initiatives. An important use of our time has been dedicated on regulatory initiatives. Even though this is not included into our growth strategy, it is the way that DCG ensures Dash has access to as many markets as possible, such as Japan, New York, and others. We have an internal team comprised of Glenn from finance, Omar from business development, and myself. Our approach there has been strategic and focused on key actions which revolve around three fronts. Number one, we want to make sure that we have the tools and relevant information to provide our partners with what is needed to educate themselves and regulators on how they can comply with their KYC and AML rules. Number two, we work on geographies where having a Dash pair will bring high volumes due to the importance of the institutions and retail market in these geographies. For example, Japan. And we also quickly react on those geographies where regulators mislabel Dash as a privacy coin and creates a threat of delisting. In those geographies, we engage with our partners to educate the regulators on how they can comply with AML, KYC obligations and make sure Dash can stay operating without a problem. Specifically, we've worked hard on the Japan reentry. We've worked there alongside Dash Japan, and we've engaged several groups, including the BGIN group, a group that Omar has been participating for the last month or so. And we've also engaged and are trying to get in front of the JFSA, the Japanese Financial Services Agency, JVCA, the Japanese Virtual Currency Exchange Association, and others. We do this by getting close, trying to get close to the regulators and sharing this information that we develop with them, and also working with our partners to make sure that if there is an exchange, let's say that's operating in the US and it's going into Japan, we work with that exchange to make sure that they can add Dash to their offer. All of this is done thanks to the awareness raisings that we do, and we make sure that we can collaborate or participate in publications that are relevant for the crypto world and for the regulators. Publications such as the Perkins Coie, and participating in conferences and making sure that we're available to respond questions to tool makers such as the one released last quarter by the company Chainalysis. Another work that we've been doing is getting close to the bit licensed organizations in the NYDFS. We're focused on being listed at bit licensed organizations. A recent change in regulations allows for a less complex entry to New York. So once we are listed on 3 organizations there, we can get green listed in the region, and that will allow Dash to more easily grow in New York. As I spoke previously on the potential delistings, last quarter, we engaged with our Australian partners to enhance our partnerships. So there was a signal that regulators were mislabeling Dash in Australia. So we engaged with the largest exchange in there, and we not only remained listed, but we're working with that exchange to try to get in front of the regulators and educate them on how they can keep Dash, because Dash can comply, the exchanges can comply with all the regulations that are needed to be enforced. And we're also taking proactive actions. We're working on UE legal opinion to make sure that we can cover Singapore, the US, and other key markets. This includes the recent DOJ in the US in Q4, where we're working hard to get in front of the right person to explain to them how the exchanges can comply with the AML KYC initiatives. And I know there's a question about this, and it will be addressed later. So I want to emphasize that this is not about changing our product. It's about education and making sure that Dash is treated fairly, and regulators, compliance teams, and the regulatory ecosystem understands that the private send feature is an implementation of a technique that's already used in Bitcoin. So therefore, we should be treated on equal terms. We care about privacy and will continue to improve private send. As a matter of fact, version 16 has an improved mixing efficiency and solved on reducing the number of smaller inputs to provide users more control. So what we're doing is protecting access to fiat on and off ramps through education, and we work to develop legal position on these topics so these actions can allow us to keep growing. For the rest of 2020 and beyond, we'll keep on building strategic alliances and support actions where Dash can get tangible wins and build scalable solutions. These solutions will provide a clear use case for current Dash enthusiasts and onboard large quantities of new users, such as the Megasoft deal, the FastPass Alliance, and other solutions we're working on. This current work, in addition to the development and growth we will do with platform, will provide the Dash network with the making it relevant, make people aware of Dash, and bring back all the value that we know Dash has. And this will bring more usage, more volume, and an overall sustainable, improved performance of Dash. With that, I'll give it back to Ryan.
All right, thanks, Ernesto. In terms of our growth initiatives, it is exciting to see what has literally been a multi-quarter effort to build Dash directly into point of sale systems beginning to bear fruit. We do have a pipeline of other opportunities beyond the grocery store chain that we already announced that we'll pursue, and there were a lot of great learnings from our first deployment that we will continue to make improvements to the way that we integrate and the way that we work with those teams. And so there's some great developments there. I love that we continue to experiment with different ways of engaging with merchants and encouraging users to adopt Dash. One of the interesting outcomes of the work with Church's Chicken is that we are getting far more traction with a 10% off promotion than we ever got with a buy one, get one promotion. And that may seem counterintuitive because one is 50% off and the other is only 10. But we are learning what is the most efficient way to kind of attract and retain these users. And so it is interesting to see the outcomes of this work. And what all of these learnings lead to is a more efficient deployment next time, more efficient use of our resources. We can focus our attention on the things that are really driving that growth. So it's been a great year for Dash in terms of refining our approach to going to market in places like Venezuela, and really excited to see that continue to play out. When it comes to the regulatory front, I do want to reemphasize what we're talking about is not changing private send or making Dash compliant with AML KYC requirements. We are a decentralized network, and the entities that are responsible for those things are the exchanges and money services businesses that deal with Dash. What we are doing is educating them on the steps they can take to comply with their obligations. We continue to improve private send. Every major release of the last 3 releases have improved the speed of it, the the level of security it can provide, increasing the number of rounds of mixing that can be provided, increasing the number of participants to a single mix, optimizing the inputs. We continue to enhance and improve it and make it as good as we possibly can for our users. The work that we're doing is around educating and making sure that Dash is being treated fairly by regulators and the entities that have to comply with those regulations. So with that, we'll turn to Outlook. You know, I've kind of touched on my outlook for the technology, the growth, and the things that we're seeing in the markets that we're serving. And you know, I'm really excited about what I see coming up over the next couple of quarters. We're going to continue to drive hard through the holiday season here, and make sure that we deliver on those things that we're committed to. I would like to encourage, if you are a masternode operator, please upgrade your masternodes to version 0.16. We're sitting right now at 77% adoption. We're just 3% away from hitting the threshold we need to activate the spork that will upgrade the entire network to version 0.16. So please, if you've got time over the next few days, please help push us over the line if you haven't upgraded yet. And I'm excited to see that we're at about 55% miner adoption right now of version 0.16. We're also getting partial signaling from one of our larger miners. And once their migration is complete, we would theoretically be sitting at about 62%. So, you know, promising results in terms of the adoption. It's been a relatively rapid adoption so far. And so we are anticipating by the end of the year that the block reward reallocation will start to occur. And that's a very exciting development as well. I would like to flip to the next slide and talk a little bit about where we are in the store of value discussion overall. I first introduced some of the potential improvements that we could make to the network at our open house that we held December of last year. We engaged with the community experts internally for a number of months after that, and ultimately presented to the network in June our proposed solution for the reward reallocation and the changes to the proposal system. So what has happened since then? Of course, we had our decision proposal that we put up at the beginning of Q3. Yes, it was just the July cycle that we put the reward reallocation up to the network. That will implement a gradual reallocation to a 60-40 split of non-proposal rewards over a 4.5-year period or so. That proposal passed. In August, we integrated that change into the code. And in September, we deployed to mainnet right at the end of September. So it's been a pretty rapid turnaround on that component. And, you know, I mentioned the rate of adoption that we're at right now. I probably should caveat here. I've got a November 28th date on this slide. I think that would be aggressive and would require a little bit more rapid adoption on the master or the miner side than you know, is guaranteed for sure. So that should say December 28th. In terms of the proposal system, where are we with that? Well, we've been engaging with a group of masternode operators who wish to put up a competing decision proposal on this. That will be submitted to the network in November. the way that will work is that there will be two competing proposals, and a DCG originated plan and an M&O originated plan. During the November cycle, one of those will receive more net votes than the other. And then in December, the higher ranked proposal will go on to a standalone vote against the current system. And so December would be when the final decision on that would be made, whether we're making a change and which of these two proposals would be implemented. So expect to see some information on that coming out next week. That's our target, to have the trust protectors submit these two proposals at the beginning of next week. And if approved, those changes would be targeted for version 0.18 to be implemented by the core devs. So we're really looking at Q4 is our decision-making period, and the first half of 2021 is when that would be planned, designed, implemented, and deployed to testnet. There's a third component that was introduced during our presentation back in June on this topic. And that topic is around voting thresholds. We have seen declining voter participation driven by shared masternodes. There's been more shared masternode services, as well as exchanges that are beginning to operate shared masternodes. And the vast majority, if not all of them, do not cast votes as part of these proposals, at least as far as we're aware. And so we are, the issue there is that if the voter participation drops, it can make it harder and harder for proposals to pass if, a high percentage of them are non-voting. We do have a minimum threshold that is based in part on the number of masternodes, not the number of masternodes that have opted into wanting to vote. And so we are exploring opt-in and opt-out solutions to ensure that the thresholds adjust to account for the voter participation level as it changes over time. And so we're really in that solution exploration phase. We will be pursuing that in earnest in 2021, I think, once we get some of the decisions around the proposal system itself cleared through this process. So we'll be engaging with the network on those, engaging with various teams internally for idea generation, looking at the pros and cons, evaluating how this is likely to play out under different scenarios, evaluating whether that introduces any type of security threats in terms of voter behavior, being manipulated somehow. So we'll be really exploring the set of options that are available to us next year. So that's kind of where we are in the overall process and kind of improving the currency itself and improving the decision-making process around the allocation of funds. And those things are very interrelated with each other. And as we've explored on some of those previous calls. So that's where we are in the process. If you have any questions, certainly happy to address them in the Q&A section. So yeah, I think overall, a lot of things are happening right now. A lot has been delivered over the last quarter. We have a lot on our plate for this quarter. And we have kind of a roadmap that extends over the next couple of quarters of what we plan on working on. We hope that you've gotten a good sense of what those things are and what we're targeting. So with that, we will move on to, I think, the Q&A. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, Ryan. So let's switch to the Q&A we are having plenty of time, around 30 minutes to respond to the questions. We have collected 26 questions from different communication channels so far, and as you can imagine, we will not be able to answer all of them during this limited time. However, we will do our best to respond to all of them on the forum later after the quarterly call. Some of those questions were really complex and have different components in them. So, well, obviously, not all of them can be answered immediately. We would need to collect some data as well. So let's move to the series of questions we have chosen to respond to during the call. First couple of them will be more technology related, and I believe Bob will be the one who answers them. First question is, with the recent GitHub takedowns of applications like YouTube DL, it's only a matter of time that coin mixing technology, example desktop wallet, is also taken down. I'm assuming Dashcore has a backup plan, but it seems to me Dash platform is the perfect opportunity to eat your own dog food, all development code and docs to Dash platform. This would, of course, be extremely valuable, not just to Dash, but to many other open source projects facing a similar dilemma. To what extent has this been discussed and prioritized?
Thanks thank you for the question. I think there's a few aspects of this. One is there is a reality as far as the amount of censorship that could take place in our community, and obviously I think that's what we're all striving to deliver solutions for. The specifics around source code and documentation, where that resides in the opportunity to put that into a decentralized environment, is a great opportunity. It has been discussed, but not at great levels internally. And I think this also beckons the question too of what the purpose of platform is, and the purpose of DCG in our development of the platform, and then the proliferation and the use of platform throughout the community. And so when I look at this question, I would have to first say, would it be the top priority for DCG to take on, to just use it as a, to build a source code repository system in a decentralized environment? That is a great use case. And the question of whether or not DCG takes on those specific use cases or not is a question of where we spend our time and our money. And so at this point in time, it's not on our priority list to do that. However, I think the comment goes back to the community as a whole, really, is who is going to do that, because the use case is perfectly aligned. And in our situation, I don't think it's necessarily DCG eating DCG's dog food. It's Dash community eating the Dash community dog food. And so I'd look to the community to prioritize that and look at it as a real opportunity. Obviously, we have backups if there were immediate issues and concerns, but I think this is more long-term vision, and it is a great use case. So appreciate you bringing it up, because bringing it up on a call like this opens it up and exposes it to the whole community of developers who may be listening, who may find it more specifically aligned with what they want to accomplish.
Yeah, thanks. Will you merge the two GitHub organizations, DashPay and DashEvo?
Yeah, Rob, why don't you read the next question also with that, and I'll answer them both at the same time.
Sure. Another simple adjustment is modifying GitHub structure to external crypto GitHub analytics show correct results. I heard that plan from DCG developers, but when will it be done?
Yeah, so I think this is important to be handled together. We have been doing a pretty in-depth analysis of the state of our repositories, specifically the two organizations, DashPay and DashEvo, at the org level, as well as the repos that exist within them. I think there are differing opinions that still need to be worked out on the benefits and the complexities of merging the two. And the analytics, though, is probably our biggest driving force. When we've had conversations, and I'm leading those at this point in time between about merging the two organizations, it has not been for simplicity of, gee, it would be nice if we only had, one org. It's just not about simplicity. It is about business needs and ensuring that we're viewed in the most favorable manner. However, it's not just about orgs and whether or not we're in one org or another and we're looking at stats off of that. Much of it actually has to do with the way our developers do work, what branches we do the work in, and how those are merged back in. And so the organizations that actually build the analytics and drive those have different algorithms that they use to look at. And so part of the decision-making process is going to be some further research to find out what algorithms they're looking at, what they're really doing, and seeing if either their algorithms could be modified to adjust to how we develop and deploy code, or vice versa, how we could modify some of our procedures to be more favorable, because the amount of work that we do is not accurately reflected in the companies that mine that data. So I'm owning that right now. Will we merge the two orgs? I don't have an answer on that. The proposal is, yes, we would. And so I'm looking for reasons why we would not at this point in time. And part of that might just be the level of effort it takes for the house cleaning to do so. But the main goal there is to have accurate metrics on the amount of contributions that we have in our repos.
Cool. Can the Dash platform team be scaled up with more developers? Community said that they would support DCG asking for more funds from the Treasury for development.
Yeah, I'll answer the resource side of this, the human resource side of this, and obviously there's a financial side that has to do with how much we request from the network each month that I won't touch on because that has more Glenn written on it. But can the team be scaled up? Yes, it can. There are points where there's diminishing returns on the size of development teams, and they need to be broken into multiple components. Somebody looking after one aspect, another team looking after another. At this point in time, we've kept the team holistically together. And as we move into a new year and we get platform out on the mainnet and we start looking at possibly more use cases, some things at the protocol level, we may have opportunities to do that, but you wouldn't want to scale it up too much is really what I'm saying right now. However, we have had a need to scale it up just to get through the amount of work that we've committed to. And so over the last quarter, we have reached out and pulled in 2 experts from the community outside of DCG to assist with our efforts. And they've been invaluable in that. And I think, as I mentioned earlier on some slides, we've had individuals from both the core team as well as the mobile team jump in and help out, participate on calls, reviewing designs, making sure that technical feasibility is accurate and correct, and so that has been really helpful. And if the community says they would support, then I guess the question is back on us: do we ask for more of that support? And as we look at future compensation proposals, that will be something I'm sure Glenn will look at and consider. At this point in time, we are constrained by the amount of finances that we have, and that is a limiting factor on our team size right now. However, I don't feel that we're underfunded for the team. We've got a strong core group of Dash platform, because this is what the question was on, a strong core group of developers on the Dash platform team today, but we could scale up a bit more.
Sounds like a good plan. Thank you very much, Bob.
And
question number 5.
I'll answer the question too from the financial end of things. We have, restricted ourselves to 60% of the available funding to ensure that we do have a robust community outside of Dash Core Group. Given that we feel like we can deliver on what we're committed to right now, we don't have any immediate plans to expand the ask. It is something we could do, especially if the proposal system becomes more flexible and there's no, it wouldn't necessarily have the effect of choking out other existing teams to the point that our ecosystem itself suffers. And if we ever do put up a proposal like that, it would be a separate proposal. We would not lump it in with our existing ask. And that would allow the network to make a discrete decision about the incremental. And so we've communicated that in the past. That remains the case. We would follow that type of a process if we ever felt it was necessary to do.
Yeah, thanks for additional explanation, Ryan. Let's move on. Multiple scaling related questions were being asked, and it was summarized with like general one of them. Other Bitcoin based coins such as BSV claim they can scale up to millions of transactions per second by simply increasing the block size to gigabyte blocks. If BSV can do this, why can't Dash?
Yeah, so there were other questions submitted around how much can it scale? Do we know how much it can scale? Do we know the upper limits? And the answer to all of these questions is that yes, you can scale up to a very large block size. The issue that you run into outside of a laboratory is that block sizes, as they grow, take longer to propagate a network. And so the trade-off is, yes, you can cram more transactions into a block. However, the stability of your blockchain and the certainty over the chain tip becomes less and less certain as you grow that. Even with a technology like chain locks, each node that is voting on the chain lock has to actually see the block and evaluate it before they can vote, excuse me, on which chain is the correct one. And so there is a fundamental trade-off between block size and the stability of the network. Obviously, stability of the network is important also. We have done work with ASU in the past that has identified where kind of that stability begins to break down and to what extent it does seem to be at levels well in excess of what PayPal is able to process today, just to give you an idea of the scale. And that assumes no change to our infrastructure. I would argue that, if Dash were being used as much as PayPal, chances are our market cap would be quite a bit higher than it is today. The payments to masternodes would be quite a bit higher than they are today. And therefore, the quality of the infrastructure that a masternode hosting all of this would be substantially better hardware. And so if that were all to happen, how much better hardware could they afford? And therefore, how much beyond the current levels that were measured by ASU could the network extend without making changes to the protocol? And the answer is, we don't really know how all of that would play out in great detail. What we do know is we have a very long runway of growth in front of us before that would be an issue. And so it's not a focus to really figure this out, develop solutions for it. It's building for capacity that isn't, for demand that isn't there yet. And so we're more focused on developing features and developing our ecosystem so that the growth is there. And as the growth begins to catch up with our capacity, that's something we can begin to look at in more depth. As far as BSV's claims go, yes, it is true. They could go to gigabyte-sized blocks, but they already have network instability in the way that, they have some fairly deep reorganizations that have occurred on their network, 6 blocks or more. And so there is that trade-off. And what that means for practical purposes is you don't truly have blockchain certainty even with 6 confirmations. It means now you need to go to 12 or whatever. Making blocks more often doesn't really solve the problem either, because the instability just gets pushed into a different place. So you truly do need to develop new technologies to increase your scale. Chain locks actually did that for Dash. There are other technologies you can look at, like sharding and so on. But again, all of this is likely to be looked at further down the road, when we've begun to reach the limits of our current capacity. Or at least that is on the horizon or foreseeable in the immediate future. In the meantime, new technologies are being developed and could apply to our network at some point in the future too. So yeah, not an area that we focused a great deal. Scaling is not an issue for Dash.
Wow, that was an excellent and very complex answer. Thank you, Ryan. Number 6. Does the DCG board have an annual process in place to evaluate their own performance and the performance succession plan of the CEO? And is this presented to the DAO trust protectors?
Well, I think this question should be directed at both DCG and the DAO trust protectors. To answer DCG's part, yes, we do have an annual performance review. We use a 360 review process. That means that subordinates rate their managers, managers rate their direct reports, and there is peer reviews at individual team levels or across the management team or across board members. And so we do go through that process. We're actually in the middle of going through that process right now. The teams are wrapping up their evaluations of each other, and we will then begin to pull together that information into reports that will be shared with each of the employees and contractors, along with open-ended comments that people had the opportunity to provide. The manager will then sit down with each of the employees or contractors and review the report, as well as offer their perspective on what the report means and compare their performance to the previous year, and where are places they've made improvements, where are places that might need work. So we have a very formal process in place that we go through on an annual basis in order to provide feedback on performance. The overwhelming response from our employees and contractors has been that it's a valuable process for them. They get a lot of high quality feedback out of it. They feel like they get a good picture of how others in the organization see them. They get to see how they see themselves in relation to that. And it leads to some very rich conversations, including about what do you want to do next? What's a good fit for you? How are the needs of the organization changing? So it's a very rich process. We get a lot of value out of it. The employees and contractors get a lot out of it. I get a lot out of it. And so we do take that seriously. All of that is shared with DCG's board. The trust protectors have not been involved in that process. Typically, as representatives of shareholders, that type of information is not generally shared with shareholders. But if this is something they're interested in diving deep into and reviewing, I don't see any reason why we can't, share information on the results of that at the executive level and get their input or feedback on it. But it is a very rigorous process.
Thank you. Number 7. Does Dash have a plan to offer a unique service which is best in class beyond the payments field, which will soon be captured and controlled by central bank digital coins?
Well, I think that there is a big caveat in the question itself, which is whether or not there is a population of people that are skeptical of central bank issued currency in general, whether it's in its digital form or not. And to me, I think the answer to that is clearly that there is a market for that. Venezuela is a prime example of this, but it's far from the only example of a population of people that reside in countries in which they've had a horrific experience with central bank issued currencies. And so clearly the market exists for this type of thing. And we are competing to, provide a high quality solution there. In terms of our positioning, it does seem like Dash is, carving out a strong niche within the payment space, and we continue to show growth quarter on quarter in terms of folks actually using it. We continue to make traction with moving upstream in Venezuela to larger retailers. It's proving quite valuable in the trading space, and we're getting a lot of interest from trading tools in terms of how Dash can be incorporated into trading ecosystems. And so, yeah, as basically in summary, I think that there is a place for public supply capped currency that functions as currency, is instant, and is decentralized and not issued and controlled by a government. And I really think that Dash is best in class within that use case. I do think there are some improvements we needed to make. I think that the store of value component was essential for us, and glad to see that that is finally being adopted on the network. And I hope that it has great impact on our ability to grow with the use cases that we're targeting.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. I fully agree with you. Dash is best in class in this field. Okay, question number 8. Dash has been categorized as an anonymity-enhanced cryptocurrency in a recent US Department of Justice report. Can DCG be proactive and write, or have DCG's legal counsel write to the Department of Justice attorneys, each of which is named at the top of the report, and explain to the DOJ attorneys the nuances and differences of Dash as compared to the paid mixers or other privacy coins?
I'll take that one, Robert. Hi, this is Glenn. So earlier on the call, Ernesto already touched upon this topic, but why don't we go ahead and dive into it into a little bit more detail here. As some background for people on the call, the US Department of Justice did publish a cryptocurrency framework several weeks ago. I've read the report, and I can confirm it completely miscategorizes Dash as a private blockchain as well as an anonymity-enhanced cryptocurrency. These statements are just simply factually inaccurate. So it's clear that our top priority is to get in front of the DOJ and to explain to them the fact that Dash's risk profile is actually lower than Bitcoin's, and that we're not a private blockchain. So far, every single interaction we've had with regulators where we were able to sit down with them and educate them on Dash, we've been able to successfully explain why they have gotten Dash wrong. I believe the regulators have come to the table with a preset notions about Dash, and I think part of it could be the legacy of being named Darkcoin in the past, and the name Private Send for our CoinJoin implementation does not help either. We have literally had regulators ask why we would call CoinJoin Private Send. But anyway, I digress. To address this Department of Justice report, there are two paths we can take, right? So we can either ask legal counsel to contact and try to set up a meeting with the DOJ. Legal counsel would usually, meet with several members of the regulatory body and try to convince a number of the DOJ attorneys that there are good arguments worthy for calling for additional meetings. Typically, this would be done through one-on-one meetings, and then once a critical mass of the authors of the report believe that a broader group would benefit from a larger group meeting, that would then be arranged by legal counsel. Legal counsel would also, generally review materials and kind of provide research on applicable law to include in any presentation to kind of strengthen the legal case in relation to the specific regulator's responsibilities. The price tag around something like this in the US can be expensive. Alternatively, we can attempt to contact the DOJ directly, right? So given our budget limitations, I've taken it upon myself to reach out to the DOJ. The last couple of weeks, I've kind of proactively reached out to over a dozen individuals associated with the report. So far, we have had a call with one of the individuals. Unfortunately, he has since moved on to a different career path. But we also received 2 emails stating that our request to meet with the appropriate Department of Justice representatives have been forwarded to the appropriate contacts, and for us to kind of stay in a holding pattern to see whether or not there's appetite to sit down with us. So what I'll do is I'll give our emails another week or two to work through the system. And at that point, I think as a management team, we'll kind of circle back and reevaluate and see whether or not we should go through legal counsel in order to address this issue head on. Again, this is an important issue, but it really, as Ernesto alluded, it really, is about sitting down with the regulators and educating them on the topic. And that's what we've been successfully able to do, and that's what we need to do in this case as well.
Great, fantastic. Thank you very much, Glenn. Next, we were having several questions about marketing, platform launch, etc. Would you like to elaborate about this and other marketing related stuff, Fernando? You are on mute.
Yes, thank you, Robert. As I said before addressing directly the questions, I'd like to share an announcement. I've resigned from my position at DCG as DCG CMO and will be leaving soon. This has been a really difficult decision to make. It's been a long time. I really love the project. I believe in the mission. I think we're getting places, but as I said, it's been a very long time. Some other opportunities I need to focus on. So I shared this with the team a while ago. We've been working on a transition process, which is already underway. We'll be publishing the job requirements in the next few days and kickstart the selection process. I will remain at DCG board as long as the trust protectors will want me there. So I'll still be active in DAS and in DCG, but in different capacity. I think this is the right time for me to make this decision, but also for the project, because 2021 is going to be a huge year for us. We have DASPay, we have platform, we have a lot of things going on. There are very exciting developments in the growth side. So there will be a lot of work, and I think it's a great time to onboard someone and get him to do all of this. I hope he will count with the support of all the community, and that there's good times ahead. I think it's also a very good time to restart a discussion about what our priorities for marketing and what we want from this function in the project. Of course, I will be more than happy to participate in such a discussion, but this time from the other side of the fence as a master owner who can share some of his experiences. And lastly, I would like to thank everyone for the support along all these years. I got involved with Evan and Darkcoin back in the spring of 2014, and I started working full-time for DCG sometime in 2018. So it's been more than 6 years and a half involved with the project in different capacities, and almost 3 working full-time. So it's been an amazing ride. It's been very wild. My life is much better because of that. The people I've met along the way, the community, the partners, the team, the wider industry, it's been really amazing. I can only be grateful for all this time. And again, I still believe in the project. I still believe in the mission. I'm very optimistic about the future. So I'll be around, and you can count on me to always support the project. And well, I think that's all that I needed to say. With that out of the way, I'd like to address the questions, because some of them touch also on this. There were a couple questions, 3 that were talking about building a war chest and accumulating budget for marketing and launching platform and things like that. We've answered these on a couple of occasions in the past, and also it's been mentioned today that DCG has a strong commitment to not requesting more than 60% of the available budget. We believe in decentralization, we believe in a strong community, and unfortunately with the prices we've had in the last couple of years, that 60% barely covers compensation. Glenn has mentioned we still are not where we want to have the compensation reserve. There's still people volunteering for reduced salaries. So we have not been able to build that budget, and we can't build it right now. But there are other organizations in the community I think could start that, and that would be a great use of the funds. Again, if there were more budget, maybe it would make sense to build this inside DCG, although it also makes sense to build it outside. If the changes, or when the changes pass and there's more budget available, maybe that's something to consider. And all these, I think, are topics for those discussions. I think we need to align on this now that the proposal system is changing, and also people in DCG, although I mean the project has more people doing marketing outside of DCG than in DCG, but there's some changes in people and the structure and in the proposal system, so I think it's a good time to address all this. And the second question that we have there, it's why aren't we incentivizing the testing of DASPay to get more participants and drum up excitement? That's a very good one. The reason why we haven't done this yet is because this first phase of the alpha testing program was is a service to the developers. It's a way to get some feedback to them and on the UX. And we can't really manage many users just yet. We're building some tools in the back end. We also are waiting for the next release to hit Evonet, so we can have faucets and a few other things that we need to properly run this program. So we're going step by step. In this first one was the goal was to share it with some people in the community, get some excitement in there, but very limited, and provide all that information and incorporate that into the development process. But having said that, yes, there are a few contests designed and prepared for when we open the program to the public in a wider way. Although, I mean, it's open, the links to sign up are around. We haven't shared them, but there's a drip of people coming in from time to time because they find it if they really want to find them. But we'll open it. We're going to be publishing a few pages about DASPay in the website. They should be live in the next couple of weeks, I think, first half of November. They will include a sign up to the alpha testing program, so we can onboard many more people. Again, contingent on a few things, but that's going to happen in the first half of November. And then from then on, yeah, we need to start working on the excitement around DASPay, because that's the big part of the evolution launch, because platform in the end, it's the most exciting one because it's the most powerful one, but it's targeted to a narrower market, which is developers, but DASPay is targeted to everyone. So that's the one we need to push very hard very soon. Yeah, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Fernando. I would like to say a couple words about Fernando and his involvement with the project. He's really been an invaluable member of the team since all the way back to 2014. He's been an absolute workhorse for the team. He's chipped in on countless different roles over the years, both as a volunteer and as an employee. You know, has done so at considerable personal sacrifice in terms of doing it at a rate that I don't think anyone else would have done it for. And so, you know, he's been an absolute workhorse for us. He owns responsibility for the website, which he's taken through several overhauls, translations, marketing, events, and even in 2020, yes, events are still happening. They're just virtual in nature, but it still requires coordination and negotiation over time slots and arranging for presentations and everything that's involved. He does all of our video productions and coordinates with all the video productions that we have made outside of DCG, maintains the forum, trademark enforcement. So all the scams that come up, we do takedown notices using our trademark, and he's responsible for those, as well as attaining the trademarks in the first place. He took us through that process all the way from the days of the Dash Foundation to today. All the social media channels, I think that we have about 9 different social media channels, press releases, media relations, and media inquiries that are incoming, weekly blog updates. There's countless other duties I couldn't even begin to list. It is the work of 4 people, and he's been doing an amazing job with all of those responsibilities. He's been doing it basically as a volunteer for 6 years, and I hats off to him. He's been a big part of getting us to where we are today. So thank you, Fernando. Best of luck with what comes next. And I'm so thrilled that you're going to be continuing on with the board and continuing to be involved with the project. Your insights at the board are unique. You bring a unique perspective to the board conversations, and really valuable. So thank you for your service. I'm sure the community shares my sentiments. It's been really great to have you with the team.
Thank you, Ryan. To be honest, some of the things you mentioned in reality are done by also many other people around. Sometimes I just coordinate them or are in the middle, directing traffic. But yeah, it's been a great time and it was a big pleasure. I will really miss day today, but anyway, it's still going to be probably a few weeks at least until we do this. So I'll be around. Anyone needs anything, you know where to reach me.
Very good. Well,
yeah, thanks, Fernando. As you could all see, he's not only a great person, but also very modest individual. It was a pleasure and privilege to work with you, Fernando. So also thanks a lot for that, but I'm not saying goodbye because I know you will stay around. We basically finished the Q&A session. I know there were a couple of questions regarding PayPal being asked on the YouTube chat. Do you want to quickly address this, Ryan?
What is the question?
Yeah, people are basically asking, has there been any outreach towards PayPal? The recent PayPal announcement was an endorsement. for several other cryptos. What are the chances of being included in the near future? Were we contacting PayPal, etc.?
Yeah, let me give an update on PayPal. So PayPal has a crypto team within their organization. They chose a partner that is New York based, Pax, in order to integrate custody services. If BitGo had been selected, Dash, I imagine, would have been there. But the group that they're working with is based out of New York, which of course subjects us to the bit license issue. We have been working on the bit license topic for quite some time and have made great progress there. There are some good signs of things beginning to break there or break through there. So we are hopeful on that front. In the meantime, we do have direct communication with the crypto team at PayPal. And in fact, I can't reveal very much, but we do have a call scheduled for tomorrow. And so it is a mutual interest. Dash is a payments-oriented coin. I firmly believe that Dash should be there when they launch their payment service. They're planning on rolling out crypto payments to their, I think they have something like, I'm going to botch the number, but I think it was 34 million merchants globally. So, you could imagine that Dash is I believe would be a really great fit for that. And we need to convince PayPal of that too. I imagine a partner like PayPal asking their partners in New York to integrate Dash might get some attention from their partners. So, we're working on the NYDFS issue from multiple fronts. This is another front by which we might be able to apply or get a third party to apply some pressure to make it happen finally for us. So we are working our channels and I worked my connections to get that meeting and we're absolutely focused on PayPal. It's a great use case for Dash. So we'll see where those conversations lead. We're going to do our damnedest.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan. Let's keep our fingers crossed for successful conversations. Okay. I think with that we can wrap it up. We can finish our quarterly call. I would like to thank you, everyone who participated in preparations. I would like to thank you to our lecturers today, to people who provided you with the feedback. Thank you for the great questions asked during and before the call. And thank you for your endless and countless support that you are providing to us as a company and as a project. Thanks, everyone, and see you next time in 3 months. Bye, everyone.